It's closing in on the end of Pride Month, 2020, and I think there's a lesson that I've learned over the past few years. There is no such thing as the queer community. There isn't a thing. There is queer theory, there is queer as an umbrella term, and a lot of people don't even like that. But it seems like there's just a lot of different communities that all have different ways that they do not fit a normal paradigm. Sirens. There are certainly gay communities and lesbian communities and transgender communities. Now LGBTQIA+, was meant to kind of be a way to unify all of these different communities around the commonality that we don't really fit within the standard straight paradigm. The problem comes when you try to say that the queer community stands for anything beyond that. There are cultural practices and quirks with gay communities that are considered toxic and harmful to other kinds of queer communities. And oftentimes, it's not like any side is more progressive or less progressive. It's just that they're talking about a community that has a different experience and has different needs and wants from society. Because we have recognized so many differences among the queer community of different kinds of experiences people can have and how that shapes their lives, it's gotten a lot harder to form solidarity, because beyond just being proud that you are a manifestation of, one of God's varieties of forms, it's very likely that there are some activists out there who are trying to push for things that you believe hurt your place in the queer community. And for them, if they didn't push for these things, it would be holding back their position as a queer person in society. A lot of queer people want spaces where they can be more openly sexual. A lot of queer people have a history of being abused or harassed and don't want sexuality to be as open, don't want that to be a feature of the queer community because it's exclusionary to them. And what it's turning out to be is just like it always has been. These are different communities, and they will identify themselves as different communities, but they will share identification terms. One social circle that has one definition of gay might differ from a different social circle. One social circle that finds empowerment in the term lesbian might be using that in a way that makes other lesbians feel icky. Gay men don't seem to have that problem. Gay has been appropriated by fucking everybody and nobody bitches about that. But does it make sense to redefine a term that is mostly used by people who don't fit a paradigm, who don't fit strict definitions? Does it make sense to try to redefine those terms to fit strict definitions, specifically so you can exclude people who are using it differently than you would? At the end of the day, we all want rights. But if we want to embrace our sense of community, what we have to embrace is the fact that we sometimes speak different languages, dialects, if you will, of our own experiences. And our dialects that we grow up with are indicative of where we come from, what we've been given, what we've been shown, and what context that has in our greater life experience. Some people only find things through a down-low sexual kink context, and their identity will spring up through that. Some people discover themselves through a social context before a sexual one, and so their identities will form around that. And for a lot of people, it's a mix. There is no way to square the queer experience as a definable thing with edges. The very nature of it makes that impossible. And all of this infighting, all of this policing of kids who are, maybe naive, maybe early on in their journeys, whatever the fuck, or even if someone is younger but confident in who they are in a way that you don't understand, it doesn't matter how queer you are. It doesn't matter how much you've struggled, because the entire goal is to make it easier for the generation after us, the kids following us, to open up to who they are in the terms that are truest to them, not just the terms that we've made up and drawn out for them. The experience of being queer and getting older and seeing people that might be a little bit uninitiated, being confident about things you don't understand, is part of growing up. Especially in the times we live in, where communication is instant and language is ever evolving. Someone coming to terms with something in a way that you don't understand is an experience that you are going to have to get used to. Even if you're in your mid-20s, do not succumb to the "oh, kids these days" feeling. Because that's the gateway to conservatism. That's a gateway to the complicity of, well, I'm normal enough, and the rest of these freaks can get fucked. And we don't need that. That's not what the queer community is about. So if you're a kid and you're about to go out of your way to tell someone a decade older than you that their ideas of their own gender expression are oppressive to you, or if you're my age, if you're in your late 20s and you're about to go harass some kid because you think that's the best way to contribute to the queer community, stop and remember that the only common thread that any of our sub-communities have ever had through the entire history of the queer community is the fact that we want rights.